for more Walking Dead. This is episode 11 of season 11. Very excited, as always, to see what's going to be happening next. Very strong first 2 episodes, I think, in this second part of the season. Properly introducing us into like the Commonwealth lifestyle and what it's like there. Giving more screen time to some of the more major characters in that side of the story. And just bringing a lot of the other characters who are involved in other stuff kind of deeper into what's going on there. So yeah, I'm assuming we're going to be focusing more on that in this one. We're still building up, I guess, to the 6 months later bit at the end of episode 9 with Maggie and Daryl. I don't know if we're going to just skip to that or, you know, it's still going to be more of a build-up. I imagine it would be that case. But either way, I'm very excited to continue as always. A few notes before we get into this episode, because some people have been kind of wondering and messaging me about previous reactions thus far. As it stands, episode 9 and 10, my reactions to them are both blocked. I've disputed them. They rejected my dispute, which is annoying because it is fair use, but nothing I can do about that. So those reactions remain blocked in most countries, unfortunately. So apologies if you didn't get to see them in time. It's just going to be one of those things, I think. I think most of my reactions to Walking Dead are blocked at this point. So I do apologise that most of you, if you're seeing this early, you might not even be able to see this by this point because they've probably already blocked it. But, most people are unable to watch these, which is very annoying. I think what I'm going to try and do, once the show ends, I want to go back and kind of maybe re-edit and re-upload some older reactions, just so I have like a complete catalogue that everyone can watch, not just a few people from a few countries. So yeah, it's very annoying that I kind of have to do that because, I'll go years with the reactions being fine and then I'll suddenly block it. I got, last year, I got a period of time where they were just blocking all my season 6 ones. I was like, they've been up for 3 years and now they're suddenly not okay? Weird. So apologies for that. There's not much I can really do about it. And I think the real test is going to be this reaction. We'll have to wait and see. What I'm going to try and do, which does work for some people, I've tried it in the past and it doesn't work for me, so we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm going to try flipping the episode footage itself, just to see if that's going to make any slight difference. So that's going to look a bit different, obviously, because the image is going to be mirrored that you see from the episode. So apologies that it's not going to be perfectly ideal and exactly how it looks. It annoys me when I have to do things like that, but if it gets us past copyright, it will. So that might have to be how things are going forward, if it works. If not, then I'll probably just go back to how it was and just say screw it anyway, because if it always ends up getting blocked, I might as well just do it the way I like doing it before it gets blocked. But yeah, that's my little rant, tangent-y thing over, so let's get into the next episode. Well, damn. Who'd have thought we'd see this day?
I love it. And I'm really proud of you. Oh, I'm gonna work.
You see, it's all this too good to be true stuff. You just can't trust.
I was thinking about you yesterday while I was getting a knife sharpened.
Should I be alone here?
No, the thought would spring to mind was decidedly not on the side.
Good. That is the bare minimum, I would say, in a relationship, but still.
I love you.
Okay, good.
When a woman tells you that she loves you, believe her.
In TV show terms, that means do not believe her. She's either going to be evil or she's going to get eaten. Place your bets. Oh dear, she didn't show. She's still holding the ice cream. Stephanie, oh Stephanie, wherefore art thou, Stephanie?
You wouldn't risk getting kicked out of Commonwealth for no reason.
That's right, he didn't. We have a statement from his doctors backing up his PTSD.
Come on. I don't trust the military doctors. Something worth confronting her in public over.
Oh boy, I hope Connie doesn't get
And they
Too deep in trouble, though.
for suppressing the truth.
That's one interpretation.
The
other
right
is that
one.
Tyler-
What are the charges against him?
Oh. Oh dear. I don't think you're getting in.
Come down to the station. We fell.
Oh. Oh. That's not her, is it? Oh, I certainly hope it's not.
I didn't start out at the top.
And where you are now?
I was going to say, I don't think you're even at the top, buddy.
Where are we? Drug dealers or smugglers?
We're smugglers. It's not what you think. They need us and we need them. We use the poppies to make opium for the hospital.
Oh. Yeah. He's got your number, I'm afraid. Oh, well, I'm glad he's coping well.
There's an empty dish.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't make lasagna. People just always have to let you in if you're carrying food. So,
Way to make it even worse. Didn't even bring food.
Anything suspicious in or around the premises that night? No. We done? We'll start a phone.
Oh boy.
Who I also believe to be the head honcho. Mastermind of some sort of rogue element within the government that Stephanie somehow ran afoul of.
That looks like Lance to me.
When she eluded them, they filed that false work transfer to cover up her disappearance.
What is with all these conspiracies this week? I was thinking, like, if you somehow get bit in that, you really are shit. Damn. Oh. You got a little, yeah.
does that have anything to do with the fact that the woman you took hostage was your sister?
I was wondering if you would figure that out.
Oh.
I might wonder why I'm out here digging for answers that we both know will never see the light of day.
It's just so much drama.
Can't wait till after you've lived through it. He's ready or not. Right now's all we've got.
Tomorrow isn't promised. Maybe Eugene should be a private investigator when all this is done. Seems to be surprisingly good at it. Where's our spin-off of Eugene, the private investigator, with Princess as
You want to break into
his hapless assistant?
his pocketing the money that you give him for rape and to get away.
Give them into custody.
Oh,
Get your hands off of me! Hornsby! You mother puss bucket!
mother what? Okay, so Carol was right to suspect him of shady business.
Dude, I am telling you how much time you have and what no time.
No.
Look out, that's someone. Hey, there they are, that's them.
Snitch.
You can't be moved without my authorization.
I'm sorry, but apparently you can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh dear. I think he is gonna kind of turn against Pamela in that eventually.
Kid's that kid. We found him in his closet. Those weapons are illegal.
For you, he's a full citizen. He has a license. A lot of us have go bags.
Yeah, but can we believe any of this, or is this now all like quickly falsified? I don't know.
I should have known. The conspiracy goes deeper than I initially
Dude!
thought.
None of this is happening. Stephanie broke up with you.
It's a pretty extreme way of doing it, though.
I've been thinking it. You can think. You know someone.
That's true. Ooh. I wonder if that's Mercer helping him out. Oh god.
Told you I heard something.
Uh-oh. She doesn't need glasses after all, and I knew you were involved. Snake?
You used her.
I remember there's a lot of talk
Pulling my heartstrings.
about, like, is she a fake Stephanie?
Everything you wanted to know about our communities. You certainly got your money's worth there. I just fell for that one twice.
Oh dear.
The villain? The boogeyman? Or the best goddamn thing that ever happened to you?
Are you in love with him?
Eugene. The only thing we've ever asked of you all in return is to be productive members of society here, for as long as you choose to stay.
Choose.
So,
We'll see.
whatever you want. Stephanie's real name is Shira. And she hates Iron Maiden. But she genuinely enjoyed your book.
That's nice.
You should stick with him.
If nothing else, this is excellent emotional inspiration for the next few chapters, right? No! God damn it.
Are you alright?
I mean, he seems wonderful.
Eugene, I need to talk to you. This is Blue Weevil to Taterbug. Please, come back.
Oh. This is the real one.
It's me.
Ah.
I'm the one you were talking to on the radio.
Or was she? Okay, a pretty solid episode overall, I would say. I don't think it's one of my absolute favourites. I think for me personally, this is probably the weakest of the second part of the season thus far. It felt to me a lot like an episode full of subplots, and there wasn't really like a main focus or like a huge movement in like the overall story to me. But I think sometimes when you're juggling so many characters and so much is going on, you do need an episode like this just to make sure that those other side stories aren't kind of forgotten along the way. And, you know, I think we've had these type of episodes before, and a lot of shows have had them. So it's kind of just, I don't know, a necessary evil at times. But that can then just make it feel a bit undercooked, I guess, overall. But, what you know, some of the individual stuff we did get, I did enjoy quite a bit, and you know, again, characters like Lance, I think, are being served particularly well, because he was like, again, he was tied into multiple different ones in this. Really, he was tied to the stuff with Carol and that other dealer guy, and then he ended up being tied to the Eugene one as well. So you know, when it kind of connects like that, I think it feels a bit more like things are actually moving along and happening. So I did enjoy that side of things, and yeah, just delving into him a bit more and seeing that there is like an edge to him. Was cool. And when Eugene confronted him with all this, the way he was just like, yeah, you're right, well done. But, you know, by that point it was too late. He'd got Eugene to sign that contract and everything. It didn't really matter. You're like, oh, what are you going to tell them, really? It certainly does play into, I think, Lance's kind of quest and desperation, I think, to be loved and to have that power. And with Eugene, he can be this overconfident arsehole, basically, because, you know, Eugene is kind of an easy target in a way, and I think Eugene said as much, and like, oh, this is why you chose me. I was like an easy one to manipulate and stuff. But then you place him in a room with like Pamela, he just completely falls apart. And then stuff with like Carol, I think he enjoyed being able to say, oh, go and arrest that guy and like watch over him, like, you know. So I do like that they still play into that, and I think the lust and enjoyment he gets from having a bit of power and authority, thinking he may be a bit further ahead than he actually is, in like the food chain of the Commonwealth, I guess. So I'm glad they're focusing on him. I think he's actually becoming a really, really interesting character. So I am intrigued to see where things will go with him, because we've seen him, you know, seemingly be quite genuine in his offers to like help rebuild Alexandria and stuff, and even saying as much to Eugene in this one, your people are getting what you want. We are rebuilding. You know, you have starved without us. But he also mentioned like his plans for Alexandria to power in the last episode. So has he got all these ulterior motives? You still don't really know, you know, what side of the coin you land on with him, really. So I think he's quite unpredictable in that sense. But you also do get some grips of character to him. It's not like he's just a complete mystery and like, what is there to kind of read into about this guy? I think you do still get a sense of who he is, maybe not what he is quite yet. And I think that's an intriguing thing to do with that character. So I'm liking him more and more. And, you know, we've got a few kind of big revelations. The fact that Mercer, his sister, is Max, aka, I guess, the real Stephanie, as we found out at the end. But again, while that is like a big reveal, I know a lot of people who guessed that months and months ago that this Stephanie was going to be fake, and then the woman who turned out to be like the real Stephanie, even if Stephanie's not her real name, that's who she was pretending to be. She was the one Eugene was speaking to. People guessed that it was her, was the real one. So I think when she was cast, the actress, I think they kind of said they cast her as Stephanie, and then they did like this fake out, so people were like, but she's Stephanie, right? So maybe that wasn't the wisest choice to actually announce that you'd cast her as Stephanie, and then pretend to do a big reveal 11 episodes into a season that that's who she actually was when we already knew. So it, you know, it didn't feel like, oh, what a big revelation for a lot of people, I guess, who are online a bit more. Maybe if you didn't know the casting, I'm sure that is a cool twist. And if you've read the comics, I'm sure you also know of where that went, I would assume. I don't know if Stephanie is in the comics or not. But yeah, it was just like, okay, yes, well, we've known that for months, but thank you for confirming it. But still, it puts, I guess, Eugene in a good position, and I'm glad they're not dragging it out any longer, the whole thing. And I actually quite liked how they framed it in terms of Eugene thinking she's gone missing and kind of spending, you know, weeks, it would seem, trying to track her down and, you know, unlocking this deeper conspiracy, and in the process learning a bit more about, you know, the darker sides to Lance and the Commonwealth as a whole, and what they would do to get information about other communities and what else is happening out there to try and get new people in or try and develop their own little projects using other places. So like that, it was like conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy in this episode, and sometimes they weren't even related to each other. It was just you did get a sense that so much is happening in the Commonwealth at any one time, and it's just you don't really know how big the conspiracy is going to get, and you don't know what's going on where. So I guess that is kind of reflected in the sort of messy structure of the episode, I guess, because we were going all these different, you know, places, all these different characters, and some stories didn't quite feel like they finished in any way, shape or form, like the Connie, Kelly, Mercer stuff. And then, you know, Eugene got a chapter kind of wrapped up, but now a new one's starting off because he's met the person he was actually talking to on the radio now. And then, yeah, we kind of had the stuff with Carol and, you know, fine. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of the episode structure in itself, is a reflection that things are just messy and all over the place, and, you know, all sorts is going on at the Commonwealth. So, in a way, that's quite cool that it reflects that. But, yeah, I did very much enjoy the Eugene stuff and finally tackling that storyline head on, because, you know, that has been dragged out for quite a bit now, and we had him, you know, go to meet Stephanie, they all got captured, and then she led him into another capture. You know, he was right when he kind of realised that, but I guess he was blinded by love all this time, and the fans are like, Eugene, please, it's not real. Which is sad, and it sucks, because, you know, Eugene's often been very lonely since we first met him in, like, season 4, whatever it was. And I do think it's interesting how when we met Eugene, he was lying about who he was. You know, he was saying he's a scientist and he knows the cure, and Abraham was on a mission to kind of get him to Washington to try and cure the world and whatever, because he had all the knowledge to save the world and reverse everything that had happened, which is obviously just a big fat lie, because he wanted to survive and he wanted to stick around with Abraham because Abraham was awesome. And now we have, you know, someone lying to him for a long time about who he was, and now we're seeing how that kind of has impacted him. So that's kind of an interesting kind of turn of events, given how we first met Eugene. The fact that now it's kind of like, well, it's happened to you now, buddy. How do you feel? So yeah, it was interesting to kind of see just how Eugene kind of became this target, and through that we now have all these characters in the Commonwealth, because he's, you know, that kind of led Eugene to go off with his little group with Ezekiel and Princess and Yumiko, and they all found the Commonwealth, and now here we are. It's kind of all started because of him, really, this whole big Commonwealth arc. And it's interesting to see, you know, what people like Lance and stuff kind of manipulating and using him for with their intel and all of that kind of stuff. I thought was really interesting, and again just makes the Commonwealth feel like an even more complex, crazy place, and we're still only scratching the surface of what this place is actually about. And that's even without all the Pamela stuff that we kind of addressed in the last episode. So there's like a potential revolution going on alongside all of this crazy stuff. And I think we got a bit of that with maybe the Mercer stuff. When, you know, he thinks he knows where he stands on this whole situation with Tyler in the hospital. Then he finds that he's, you know, they've moved him without alerting him, even though he's supposed to give permission to move him. So again, you know, you think you have this certain position of power in the Commonwealth, but the reality is you have no idea exactly where you stand. And I think Lance is very much in that boat, and Mercer seems to be in that as well, which may lead Mercer to kind of go against Pamela and that eventually, if he's not getting the respect and stuff. And the fact that the real Stephanie is his sister as well, as we kind of discovered. You know, if she gets put in danger any more times, you know, there's lots of incentives there for Mercer to be like, you know what, F you, Pamela, F this whole Commonwealth system, I'm gonna, you know, join the other side and fight to overthrow you or something. I feel like that may be where that's heading now, and maybe he was the one who dropped off that list of names and gave that to Connie and Kelly. I don't exactly know what the list of names means. I imagine it's more people who've kind of disappeared or gone against the Commonwealth, or all the members, or like some of the thousands that Tyler was talking about at the end of the last episode. But, you know, that's something to be explored. You know, that's more set up than just, there you go, enjoy. So yeah, we will see how that unfolds. But I did enjoy Connie probably getting in a bit too deep, really kind of natural, just stepping back into the whole reporter business. And I also enjoyed Kelly's reluctance to kind of translate some things. You know, like, oh God, you shouldn't be saying this, and now I have to be the one to tell this person, like, you know, I'm going against your orders, like with the, you know, the boss lady at the newspaper. Then with Mercer as well. I did like seeing what Connie had actually managed to find out in her own research, and how she pinpoint connections, and she just keeps pushing and pushing for answers that people don't want her to find. I'm scared that's going to ultimately get her in trouble and get her killed, and I will lose it, but Daryl will also lose it if that happens, so that's fine. But I'd rather Connie not die, because she's one of my favourites. But yeah, I liked that side of things as well, them kind of investigating stuff, following Mercer around to try and kind of, you know, they're supposed to be writing like this pro-Commonwealth propaganda, I guess, really. But Connie's like, nah, this place is shady, I'm not doing that. And we love her for it. And now we know, we have people like Eugene also discovering that there's a lot more to this whole Commonwealth thing. And yeah, Mercer potentially as well. So all of that was great, and I look forward to seeing exactly how that's all going to continue to unfold. I think at some point, you know, Rosita at the end of the last episode kind of cottoned on to this whole conspiracy was happening, you know, that hidden kind of base where people are making all these posters and stuff. So she has the inkling about this revolution, and then what Connie and Kelly might find out with that list of names, what Eugene's just found out about the conspiracy, what more intel he might get from this real Stephanie. I think her name's Max, like Mercer's sister, Max, but maybe her name actually is Stephanie, I don't know. What he may gain from that. You know, I think, again, this is all going to slowly come together, and everyone's going to find out everything, and then, you know, the future of the Commonwealth will probably be decided as maybe like an end game for the show, which is very exciting to see if that's where they're building towards. I mean, we still literally have over half the season still to go, so anything can happen in that time. More secrets are undoubtedly going to be revealed, and we still have the whole flash forward to go with Daryl and Maggie, and seeing what the hell that's about. Because I think it was Connie who mentioned it had been a month since the last episode now. It had been a month since Tyler, like, held Max hostage almost, and like threatened to, well, he destroyed Pamela's painting and all of that jazz. All the events of the last episode was now a month ago. So we're now 4 months away from the flash forward with Maggie and Daryl. Maybe even less than that now, considering, I don't know how long it was that Eugene was investigating the disappearance for, or whatever. But, you know, I think maybe the end of part 2 is going to be us reaching that moment and seeing what that conflict's all about. So yeah, again, anything can happen. So much is kind of twisting and turning with the Commonwealth stuff, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it a lot. It's really breathed the kind of new sense of life and mystery into the show that they haven't managed to really do in a long time, because they've been in Alexandria for just so long. It's been Alexandria, Hilltop. They've kind of been like the main two bases for so long. It's really cool to kind of have this big new place injecting so many new characters and so much new life into the show. Not that I think it needed to inject new life into it, because I think the last 2 seasons and stuff in particular have really stepped things up again. But yeah, I am excited to see where all these conspiracies and these new twists and turns are going to ultimately lead us as we get closer to the end. And yeah, I also enjoyed Princess in this one, as I often do. I think Princess is a great addition to the show, and I like her kind of bond with Eugene a lot. They kind of established that at the end of season 10, and some of the bonus episodes and stuff. I like their dynamic quite a bit. And you can tell that she really does care for these people, because she was alone for so long. These are the first people, Eugene was one of the first people that she'd seen and talked to in like years, I think. So of course she's going to latch on to him, and he's going to, mean a lot to her, and she just wants what's best for him, which sometimes just means the tough love of being like, maybe she just broke up with you, buddy. Maybe she just moved away. I mean, I think that was a very extreme reaction if that had been the case. But, I think she just trying to manage Eugene's expectations, and obviously they still ended up getting shattered anyway once he found out the truth. But he was onto something. He wasn't going crazy. But, Lance still manipulated that for his own gain, as you do. So yeah, I kind of liked her being the reluctant assistant to Eugene's private investigator. That's a spin-off I'd love to see. And yeah, I like the kind of the unique brand of energy and humour she injects into the show. Sometimes, a show like this can get very bleak and very dark, very miserable. So characters like Princess, I think, are great for kind of, alleviating the stress a bit and kind of providing some comic relief every now and again. Which I think Eugene kind of was once upon a time, but now he's also getting all these depressing stories as well. So it's good to kind of keep introducing characters like that. So I liked her in this episode a lot as well. For me, I think the least interesting aspect was the Carol and Lance stuff. I didn't really care about any of that at all. Again, it's probably just a continuation of the stuff in the last episode, where Carol's doing more and more favours for Lance to try and get Ezekiel up the list to get his surgery. But I don't know, I just don't think them, going fishing with this drug dealery guy or whatever, this dealer, deciding that he's shady and arresting him wasn't the most interesting plot. But I think they kind of knew that as well, because it was probably like 3 minutes of the entire episode. But I like that it can showcase Carol's intuitiveness about things and how smart she can be, how good she's gotten at reading people. She's always been very good at kind of blending in. When she first arrived at Alexandria, and she just pretended that she wasn't an absolute badass now. She just pretended to be the Carol we met in season 1, to kind of let people underestimate her. I like that it's not so much she does that anymore. She's just like, I'm probably going to be able to stop you anyway, so you might as well just know how badass I am. But she still kind of lets people have slightly lower expectations of her than she should, because then that just allows her to kind of stay back in the shadows a bit, unnoticed, so she can get a good read on all these new people. And that's how she worked out this guy was probably doing some dodgy stuff, and wasn't worth their time. And then Lance, loving power like he seems to, it's like, right, arrest him then. So I don't know if that's just going to be, another tick in the box for Carol in Lance's good books or whatever, or is that going to lead somewhere further than that? Because the people seem to actually appreciate Carol for doing that and getting rid of that guy. They actually seemed happy that he was gone. So I don't know if that's just going to lead somewhere and he's going to be like, I want revenge for you ruining my life or whatever, or that's just that story done. Either way, I don't think it was the most exhilarating, interesting part of the episode. But, I did at least like that, Lance was tied into that and then something else to kind of, build on his character even more. So that's nice. And I think the Carol-Lance dynamic is an interesting one that can be explored a bit further. So hopefully we get, a bit more interesting stuff with it later on down the line. But yeah, aside from that, while I think a lot of this episode felt like just B-plots and subplots, rather than like advancing anything super main story-esque, I did enjoy the majority of it, and I think we've got some really cool character stuff with Lance in particular. I think is, was served very well by this episode. I like the growing conspiracy around, what's going on with Tyler and Connie, Kelly, Mercer, how that's all tying together, building up to something as well. I think that'd be good. I like the Eugene and Princess dynamic, them investigating stuff, and the proper revelations finally, I guess, about fake Stephanie and then the real Stephanie at the end. Where is that going to lead? Are they going to connect somehow? Why was she okay with just lying to Eugene way back when? For so long about the fact that it was actually her he was speaking to. Was she sworn to silence or secrecy? We'll have to wait and see. But there's lots to explore there as well. So yeah, I'm intrigued by where all this will lead. But hopefully, I would like some big main story focus as well, and some bigger plots moving forward. Other characters we haven't seen for a bit maybe get revisited too. But I think it was necessary to address all these little individual things, maybe without the Carol and Lance bit. So it had to happen at some point, and I'm glad they kind of moulded them all together, instead of just maybe dragging down lots of other episodes. I'm glad they just kind of put them all together, like, okay, let's just, explore these little side things here, because I think in terms of pacing-wise, that will help the season move much quicker in the future. So I can see why they kind of went with an episode like this at this point, and especially because, we're near the middle of the season now. If there's ever going to be a point where you're just like, okay, let's take a breather and just confirm the things with Eugene and Stephanie that everyone had kind of already assumed for months, just confirm that, okay, good, we can move on, and then just kind of setting some pieces in place, I think, for bigger payoffs later on down the season, like the Connie, Kelly, Mercer stuff, all of that jazz. So I think it was well placed in terms of the season, even if it wasn't, a huge, super fun, interesting episode for me personally. It kind of still needed to happen. But still a solid episode nonetheless. I don't think it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. Because we've got a lot of good stuff in there, particularly with Lance, who I'm really intrigued by. I'm looking forward, actually. This sounds wrong. I'm looking forward to when the show ends. I'm not. I am looking forward to being able to go back, buy and read the comics once the show's over, buy those big-ass compendiums you see in Waterstones and stuff. Because I love to see what characters get the most focus and stuff in this particular arc. So I'm wondering, is Lance a big character in the comics? Is he in the comics at all? Is he in one issue? Because sometimes, some characters are just not in the show from, the comics entirely, or, people like Andrea, who I'm pretty sure was in the comics for most of the run, and they kill her in season 3. Obviously, with the whole Rick situation, Andrew Lincoln quit, so there's not much they could do about keeping Rick in the show. And Daryl wasn't even in the comics, and he's the biggest character in the show. All of that kind of stuff. It would be interesting to see how the Commonwealth characters do fit into that, and how big or little roles do they have, and what did the show decide to do. So I am looking forward to that kind of thing, and episodes like this do get me thinking like that. If they chose to do it in this way with the show, how did it go in the comics? And I quite like that. I'm still inspired to read the source material even after 11 years of watching the show. Well, I haven't been watching it for 11 years. I've been watching it for 5 years, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I am very intrigued to see how this is all going to pay off in the long term. But yeah, solid episode. Not my absolute favourite, but still good, as is often the case with Walking Dead. So yes, that is going to be everything for now. Hopefully, mirroring the image for this reaction will keep up at least a little bit longer than one day before AMC block it. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, you are still watching this and it's been up for a few days and everything's fine. But, it is what it is. Either way, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, we're back next week for... It's going to be the halfway point of this second half already, right? Is that right? Yeah, bloody hell. And we'll be halfway through the season next week as well. So exciting times, but that's going to be everything for now. And until my next reaction, thanks for watching.